Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. I'm coming to you a day ahead of the weekly astrology forecast. This is for Sunday, March 29th through next Saturday, April 4th, 2026. Theme this week is grounding what begins, really moving from a space of dreaming and desire into devotion. And we're transitioning from Aries initiation into Taurus stabilization. So let's get started on Sunday, March 29th. Uh, Sunday tomorrow is a day of subtle alignment. We have a couple aspects. The first is the sun is semi-sextile to the north node. This takes place around 7:30 in the morning on Sunday, and this is really it's a quiet but meaningful realignment. The sun is in Aries, and the sun is in Aries gently, just sort of connecting to the North Node, which is in Pisces. And this is really helping us to remember that our identity and our direction are actually beginning to orient toward one another. If we think about, us being on this path of understanding what it even means to say that we're interconnected. So there might be this sense of a little bit more quiet internal clarity, or just on Sunday, this subtle sense of rightness, even maybe a soft redirection. And with that, I would say trust the smaller signals. It doesn't have to be a big aha. It can be subtle energy on Sunday. We also have Venus semi-sextile to Uranus around 10 a.m. on Sunday, the 29th. And this is going to bring, a spark of emotional freshness. Also, it's going to bring this lightning bolt of I don't want to say lightning bolt of justice in the sense that, like, for us to expect that there's going to be fireworks and poof, everything's going to shift on Sunday. But there is this sense of, there's a new value, there's a new desire, there's a new perspective, there's a new sense of what justice and interconnectedness even mean. And I would just say maybe it's going to feel a little different than we've ever understood it to feel before. Um, but that difference doesn't have to be destabilizing. Sunday's a good day to stay open. On Monday, excuse me, Monday, March 30th, we have Venus entering into Taurus. And this is really a major event. This is one of the more important shifts of the week in our 3D world. I would say, Taurus is going to ground the heart and energy of Venus. Taurus is going to ground the need for justice and balance. And when Venus moves into Taurus, there's this stability, there's this embodiment, there's this nourishment to the collective sense of harmony and justice. There's this nourishment to our own emotional field. And this is pretty right on point because after the forward push of Aries, Taurus is kind of going to slow things down. And this means that we may notice a desire for consistency, for harmony, um, and really for us to one of the paths for us to figure out the way forward is to focus on what feels good to us intrinsically, not in our head, but in our heart and in our physicality of our body. We might also, on Monday and early in the week, get clarity about what is sustainable and maybe, a pull towards something more simple. This is not about chasing a desire, it's about choosing what is worth investing in. So on Monday, as Venus enters Taurus, it's a really nice day to ask, what truly nourishes me? What am I willing to commit to? On Tuesday, the 31st, I'm going to call this a day of integration because there's no major aspects happening. This is just a day for us to let this Venus shift settle into our field, settle into our body. And if anything, this isn't a day to rush. This is a day to move slowly and listen to what's coming through, to let ourselves feel what is changing, what has changed. On Wednesday, we enter into the month of April, April 1st. This is a day of softness and sensitivity because we have Venus semi-sextile to Neptune. It was pretty close to 7 a.m. in the morning. And, this is a gentle blending with a semi-sextile, and it's a blending of stability and sensitivity. Venus in Taurus meets Neptune in Aries. And so this reminds us that groundedness does not require rigidity. And this is a really great day. Again, there's a theme here, slowing down, appreciating the beauty that is present in our world, and really harnessing our focus, not in a disconnected way, but choosing what we think about and choosing what we talk about and choosing what we plan about, and really staying connected to our more subtle emotional states. And this is a day for us to really allow both stability and softness to coexist, to embody both of those. And that's not going to be a challenge. I think that's going to feel pretty much like what we're going to be wanting to do. On April 2nd, Thursday, we have Venus quintile Jupiter. This is a day of quiet expansion. This happens around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is a supportive and creative expansion. Venus, as I mentioned, just entered into Taurus, and, Jupiter is in Cancer. And together they're bringing us a sense of appreciation along with, warmth and openness. But this is a more subtle, refined energy. This isn't overwhelming abundance. This is like quiet enjoyment. This is also just, we're being encouraged to, sorry about this sunlight. I can realize the sun is kind of making it hard to see me, but we're not here to see me. We're here to listen to me, I think. So Thursday is really just a day to let yourself receive. And then let's get to Friday. Friday is a day where we've got a few things going on. We have, and it's really a day about emotional truth and insight. And this is potentially the most dynamic day of the week. Around 7:30, we have Mercury trining Jupiter. So this is going to help us get clarity and emotional intelligence type downloads, meaningful conversations, intuitive understanding. It's a good aspect for teaching. It's a good aspect for reflecting. And, clarity in many senses is everything. When we have clarity, our consciousness is so powerful. We create things instantaneously. And the moment we get clear on who we are and what we want and where we're headed, I feel like we're honing in on this path, and we're kind of being guided toward an energetic signature that's even more optimal for ourselves. So this is really a day for us to stay in tune to, and a week for us to stay in tune to um, the subtle shifts that are happening and the clues that are happening around us. And really to remember that those things that seem magical, like they almost never happen, those things actually probably all happen all the time. It's just a matter of us being in a place, in a space where we can be able to see them. So around 11 a.m., we have the sun semi-square to Uranus, and this is going to bring a little bit of tension. Semi-square is a little bit of tension. And, that's a tension between stability and change. There's a little bit of sense of being ready for something to shift. Caveat that let's allow the change to arise consciously. Let's allow the change to um, change is definitely afoot, and there's a need to take action. And there's in going with those flows when they present themselves. And then, finally, we have Venus scoring Pluto around 6:30 p.m. on Friday. And this is the deepest emotional moment of the week. Venus is the planet of love and beauty and justice. Pluto is the planet of transformation and death and rebirth. And so, Venus and Taurus, when it's squaring Pluto and Aquarius, this is bringing a kind of intense energy into our relationships, our values, our attachments. And it's a good thing to note that if we have a strong emotional reaction, to take a breath. And if we feel a deep truth surfacing, to create some space for that truth to fully come to light. And it's also a good day for us to be honest about what it truly is that we value. And this is about refining what is real and trusting that what is aligned will deepen, and what is not aligned will begin to release. These are just realizations, and our consciousness can likely do all the heavy lifting for us here. And then finally, we close the week with a few aspects, three of them on Saturday, April 4th. And I will just say Saturday, April 4th is more like a day of intelligence and integration. Around 7 a.m., Mercury is going to quintile Uranus, and this is going to give us some creative insight returning. This means this day is a good day for new ideas, intuitive solutions. And there's even this sense of fresh thinking, like a fresh breeze blowing through and reminding us that we are powerful and that what we've maybe been interested all along is possible, or maybe something new is going to light our fancy as well. Around 9 a.m., we also have Venus semi-sextile to Saturn. So this is going to really continue with the grounding. Venus in Taurus is really, like I said, that's one of the themes of the week. Um, and we may feel a little bit more stable. We may be able to feel a little bit more committed or even clear around what it is that we are building. And then the last aspect that takes place on Saturday is closer to 10 o'clock at night, and that is Mars is semi-sextile to Chiron. And this is going to kind of be, this is interesting aspect because this is going to bring an opportunity, but the opportunity is going to be more of a quiet opportunity of healing through action. And remembering that small steps, not only do they carry meaning, they carry internal and external power. It's not necessarily about being the biggest on Saturday. It's about remembering that every little thing that we do and every little thing that we say carries energy and carries creative power. So in summary, this week brings overall this sort of subtle alignment and this sense of direction. And there's also this emotional shift that we're going through with Venus and Taurus, really helping us to come into our bodies, to root ourselves down. And there's also with the Venus Pluto aspect, there's this sense of emotional truth, deeper emotional truths. And there's also, I mentioned moving slowly, I mentioned creative insight, I mentioned grounded integration. So this, is not just about what do we want, it's about what truly sustains us as individuals and as a collective. Take care, have a blessed week, and if you're on my YouTube or my Substack, have a look for my Sunday weekly astrology meditation. All right, guys, love and blessings.